Kia ora, dobadan, and hello. I'm Louise James, or Lou, as people know me as. And if you haven't met me yet, or you've met me and you still don't understand what I do, I'm the sole bookbinder and operator of the binding studio. It's just me. I'm not a big company. I work out of my forest home in the bottom story. I have a bindery, so I've got Peerless Gem, Guillotine, and all the old stuff in the presses. And my 4-year-old could say guillotine before she was 2 years old because she loves to hang out there with me. I want to say thank you all for being here this weekend and specifically for lending me your ears today. It's a big job keeping bookbinding alive and well down here at the bottom of the world. So it's really important that you're here supporting this event, and so thank you for your enthusiasm. And thank you to the ABC for doing such extraordinary mahi to make this all happen. It's really awesome. It's been such a great weekend. To give you a little insight into my journey, I started bookbinding in 2001. I was taken on at a commercial bindery here in Auckland called Bound to Last. It was in Mount Eden. And I was 20, extremely shy and very malleable, but very eager to learn. And I made my way up from making the cups of tea and mixing the glue and filling the glue pots to doing all the cutting and material prep, into then doing measurements and design and talking to clients and all that kind of thing. At some point in my fuzzy timeline, I got made the production and team leader. So I organised the workload we had a very small but efficient team of binders, which included Fleur Williams. She came in at some point after I'd been there a while. Again, my timeline, it's so many lives ago. And I wanted to segue from my notes after hearing Ben's beautiful talk this morning and to say that I was very lucky to fall into that job, and I wouldn't be here today because, one, I wouldn't have known that bookbinding existed in New Zealand because you can't learn bookbinding as a trade here. So I was very lucky to have two beautiful women teaching me and everyone else they took on. They took on younger people who had no bookbinding experience. They might have had some design or art background and trained us from start and did such an awesome job, and they had very big hearts. So not only were they beautiful, amazing women, but they were the only women running a commercial bindery in the country. So they were kind of at the forefront of what they were doing, and they made a really great name for themselves. They worked really hard to get to where they were. And when they took me on, they were kind of at the high point of what was happening in the designer bindery world. So if it wasn't for them, I wouldn't be here. And I'm still in touch with them, and they're beautiful people, and they're so proud of me, and have been doing a good job in keeping that proudness going. So yeah, back to my notes. From 2009 to 2013, I worked here at AUT and did Fleur's job. So Fleur came after me. Annie Rana, if you met her at the dinner last night, she was somewhere in between us. She also worked at Bound to Last. So we've been kind of supporting each other and following each other through these journeys and working where we can, because there's not a lot of work out there unless you start your own thing as a commercial binder. Yeah, and the energy and the ideas that the students brought to the bindery here were really inspirational, and I'm always really proud of Fleur and to see what she's doing here and the brilliant work that comes out of her bindery. It's really special to see her pushing it along, and I really enjoy watching her career from the other side. I started the binding studio around the same time as I started my role here at AUT, so I was working part-time in both. But by 2013, I decided that my studio would do better with me working in it full-time. And it does. So to this day, I take on commissions that are bespoke and small runs for all sorts of creative people. Just before COVID, I started teaching workshops and selling tools and materials, which has turned out to be a really good way to fit in my daughter and family life. So that's good. Today, I'm here to talk to you about Mandela 100, which is a commission I had the absolute pleasure of working on in 2018. When my bindery was based out in Mount Roskill. It seems like many lives ago, but it made a huge impact. And it remains the most important and influential of any project I have found. And it was a really real turning point in my journey. I wanted to share it with you to show you what the industry is capable of producing, even as a small bindery, doing it all by hand. There's a place for our skills and our craft to not only survive, but to thrive. by aligning yourself with the right communities and working to high standards and continuing to evolve. You can see I've brought my artist proof along, and you're most welcome to come and take a closer look when I'm finished and touch it and open it. That's what it's for. So feel free to come up and do that. In mid to late 2017, I was approached by Jeff Blackwell, who you saw in Ben's slides at the end there. He was the originating publisher for Nelson Mandela and Desmond Tutu, and the founder of Milk and then later Milk Books. He came to discuss a collaboration about celebrating Nelson Mandela's upcoming centenary celebrations, which were happening in July 2018. So historically, I'd worked for Jeff earlier in my career. Annually at Bound to Last, we used to prepare all of Milk's dummy books for the Frankfurt Book Fair, and alongside the other promotional work. Excuse me, it is free. So yeah, we've done a lot of work with him together, and we're really familiar with not only their style, but how they presented themselves to the world. And it was always a pleasure to be working to such a high standard for such a well-known publisher. He had a beautiful relationship with my teachers and mentors, who are Anna Caithness and Helen Everest, as well as respecting the bookbinders that they taught and employed, and the high quality communication and artisanal skills that they had embedded in us. This most gracious man sat in my suburban city fringe rental / bindery that spanned 3 small downstairs bedrooms, explaining the project and that he wanted to work with someone he could trust to do the job to the highest quality and with the least hassle. Looking around my 3 rooms, he said, "Do you think you have the capacity to take this on?" Which I instantly said, yes, while internally he was panicking. In later conversations with my husband about taking on such a mammoth and important commission, I relayed to him the social significance, the physical demands it would have on my body, the limitations in my bindery, the intensive timeline and moving parts, and came to the conclusion that I would take it on, but only if we used any gains to drastically change our lives for the better. To give you the contents and content of the limited edition, sometime prior, renowned South African artist John Meyer was commissioned to create 16 portraits that were key moments from Nelson Mandela's life. He was commissioned by Andrew Dunn, who was the CEO of Richmark Holdings. The paintings aimed to showcase Mandela's humanity and the impact of his journey, and were to be completed for an exhibition at Nelson Mandela's centenary celebrations in 2018. It was aimed to be more than just an art display for the viewers. It was to be a learning experience and a catalogue for dialogue about social transformation. Taking about 3 years, Mandela, A Life's Journey was painted in acrylic on canvas. Each painting measured 1.4 metres by 2.1, so a very generous wall space. They were huge. I've got a few of his artworks for you to see. You can see all 16 on his website, which I've put here. You should go have a look. They're awesome. I haven't seen them in real life. The exhibition was due to travel to Auckland in 2019, but obviously the pandemic had other plans. But Jeff Blackwell told me that the colours and the textures and just the sheer size of them were extraordinary. Returning back to Jeff sitting in my Mount Roskill studio / home in 2017, he had been asked by the collector in association with the Nelson Mandela Foundation to reproduce and publish the artworks as a special limited edition. Between late 2017 and February 2018 came the designing and the quoting and the samples back and forward, the specifications, the print guides, paper stocks, adhesives, the background efforts to come to an acceptable presentation within the budget and the time constraints. I was also lining up 3 very capable friends to help me. I've been very blessed in my time as the binding studio to have much support and love from those that I've worked with before or who I've met along the way. Some of these special folk just happen to have flexible lifestyles at the time and were yes people like me. In my team, I had Gray Noya, who's been my casual helper since 2016, and she still helps me to this day when she can. Bernadette Dunn, who helped train me at Bound to Last, and with whom I also worked at a jewellery studio for a brief time. and Rachel Bell, who has had previous bookbinding experience at Design Bind. She's a talented jewellery maker and has gone on to become an incredible archivist. So my dream team was formed from those three, and they all knew of each other through me but hadn't met, and they got along beautifully and we had such a fun time, and they all really enjoyed working with each other, so it was just all meant to be, the stars aligned. By February, I had created the Artist Proof, which is a working finished edition, to show the limited edition book and folder with fine art prints, all housed in a clamshell box. And I nervously awaited the AOK for the specific details involved. This is the clamshell box, which you can take a closer look at later, but they were all detailed with individual numbers in UV printing, debossed on the top with leather straps and dome closures. It has 6mm thick walls covered in a pepper linen cloth with a light white linen cloth interior. The book showcases all the paintings with information, history, and quotes to match each image in the series. It has a leather spine with individually debossed numbers, further logo debossing, and UV printing. The pages were printed by Crucial Colour and Penrose, who do a beautiful job. I often send people to them for printing. We individually mounted each print onto a 4-page book before trimming to create a flush mount binding. And then there was the folder with UV printing on the front. And the interior was constructed with a pocket to hold 16 fine art prints of all of the paintings. They were printed by Optic Mix in Titirangi, who also do a brilliant job. Kevin, he prints for a lot of well-known photographers and artists. These prints were designed to be taken out of the folder by the owner of the edition to be framed. We had a movable deadline to get the whole project shipped to South Africa in time for the celebrations in July. Throughout all the lead-up processes, I began to fully understand Jeff's look around my studio as I comprehended the physical size of each unit, the materials required, the supplies and outworks involved, and my small but mighty team. There were 33 sets in total, individually numbered editions 1 to 27 and 1 to 6 in Roman numerals, with just a small text and signature change between the two editions. An entire set measures 53 by 43 by 9 centimetres and weighs 11 kgs. To put that into perspective, here's a list of materials, or the main ones I needed to order in, and not only store in their raw form, but store as made parts as we went along and leaving enough space to actually work in between everything in small rooms in a house. I recall spending a lot of time rearranging the studio to be able to fit it all in. Some of the materials listed: 740 full sheets of core page stock, 155 full sheets of 3mm quad crown box board, that's very big, 370 full sheets of SRA 1.5mm box board, 83 full sheets of 1.5 white line board, 70 full sheets of stock for the end papers, 3 full cowhides, 135 metres of linen bookcloth, 31 litres of EVA, 250 double-sided archival adhesive, 250 metres, and 360 metres of scrim tape, plus some more things. When the materials started arriving at my front door on pallets, as you can see here, down a very steep driveway, the amount of work ahead got very real. Some things I had ordered cut down to manageable sizes rather than attempting it on my board shear and guillotines. I've got big enough equipment, but the amount of lifting and sorting and cutting was just not practical. The 3 full cowhides needed hanging before use to minimise the creasing. And where does one hang cow-sized materials to be out of the way? The double-sided adhesive used in the books, I sent to a roll splitter to be cut down to size one way, and that meant less manual work to cut down the 250 metres further. To do that second cut, I came up with this jig made out of a pallet attached to my board shear to minimise the repetitive movement and increase speed, and we split it between the 4 of us for cutting materials. For about 2 weeks we were cutting materials. You can see Gray doing it here, and this is my tiny It's a living room, but it was a very small space. Along with the dozens of material suppliers I was ordering from, I reined in the outworkers for the specialised parts that I couldn't do in-house. Over my 17 years in the industry, I'd worked with many talented and specialised people. It takes not just yes people to pull these things off, but people with the same standards and quality and work ethics as myself. It's a giant moving jigsaw of epic proportions. All of the outworkers went above and beyond for me, producing their parts efficiently and beautifully. And another aside to my notes is that all of these people that I work with have always been super supportive of me going out on my own and doing my own thing and moving their timelines to fit my work in. And especially this job, they were all very excited to be a part of it. So that was really nice. Here you can see one of my planning charts as I juggled all the parts and outworkers and my helpers and trying to run regular business as usual where possible. My other clients were all very understanding when I explained what else was happening in the studio and were very gracious with their timelines. I also pictured Gray and Bernie. This was pre-COVID, but one of us wasn't feeling quite right or 100%. So we all took precautions for the sake of the deadline. We couldn't afford to be one woman down. The following images I took randomly over the 9 weeks. I didn't record all the processes, but this is a little insight to some of the things that were going on, and I'm just going to talk to each image. This is my Peerless Gem guillotine. At this point at this studio, it lived in a garage where my husband was rebuilding 2 cars. Very dusty, and he had just stripped the paint off his red Lada Neva. So my guillotine lived under a giant sheet, and I kind of had to sweep paint out of the way before guillotining anything. So I set up a table permanently here. It was really hot. It was, the beginning of the year, so it was still quite warm. So we constantly had this door open and a big sun umbrella outside to shade us while we guillotined. I was explaining to Mark this morning that it was a job so big that it just fit into this guillotine. So I would pile materials up to do one cut here and then move them to my electric guillotine in another room to do the other cut, just to save a little bit of manual work because it's terrible for your back, like going through cardboard and thick book blocks. This is one of the other rooms where we stored and weighted parts. So these are all the book blocks. We've glued them up. So they're made of a sheet of thick stock folded. I had them creased and we folded, and all of those are glued one to the other to create the book block. There's a piece of cardboard in between each section, and that piece of cardboard is taking up the space of the prints that we then mounted, if that makes sense. So we went through and took out a card, placed the prints to it, and there's some guillotining involved partway through and at the end. At the back there where all the post-its are, that's all the sets of pages that we had to collate and trim ready to go into the book. So these were huge and the stacks were heavy, and we had to arrange them that we could still walk around and get to things. The photos aren't great. Sorry, we were busy working, so I didn't take great photos. The cowhides we couldn't spread out in the studio. So this is the living room. I pushed all the furniture out the way. We spread out the cowhides and made templates to use the best parts of the leather. You can see this is called Mad Dog Tobacco, and it comes from Australia, I think. Memory not so great, had a baby. And there's a lot of scars. These are very aggressive cows, and so there's a lot of scarring. So we tried to avoid the worst ones, but we wanted to keep some scarring in because it turns out really beautifully. You can have a look and touch this piece. All the offcuts were then sent to my leather worker, Trevor Rogers, who's amazing. He's awesome. He's in his 80s and still working. And he then turned them into the straps and domes and did all the edge stitching for me, and then gave them back and we attached them to the boxes. This is at Minnie and Cooper, not the car place, but the shoe manufacturer, who is based here in Auckland. Unfortunately, they've closed down since this. But they very kindly let me bring all my pieces of leather in, and John put them through the skiver for me, which meant I didn't have to peel all the pieces by hand. I could treat it as a cloth and glue it rather than treating it like a leather, which is a little bit sacrificial. But, I'm not a traditionalist. I break all the rules, which is nice. And he did a really great job and saved a bunch of sore hands and a bunch of time. And it was a really great process to watch. This is me checking that the case fits. So I had to make up one book block out of the whole production run. We needed to make all the outsides of everything to send away to get all their detailing done. So everything had to be perfect because we were doing everything backwards because of the time frame. Usually we'd make a book block, then make the cover to fit, but we had to make all the covers. So triple checking everything before it went off for its detailing. Checking the placement for the straps and domes to see how far in it needed to be, how long it needed to be before everything got stitched and attached and all that kind of stuff. This is me and Gray making the outside bits of the folder. You can see we're using a template or a jig, and we run a huge piece of cloth through the glue machine, which is kind of half outside and half inside because there's not enough space. Mm-hmm. I put the cloth on and then flip it over, give that to Gray, and she would put the next lot of boards in and make sure the glue was ready for the next one. So we're just continually moving on. And obviously one of the other girls was taking a video. She was probably sorting pages or something in the other room because we couldn't all fit in one room. But yeah, so we had this tiny bit of space to work with. So yeah, and templates and jigs for everything to make things faster and easier. Storing the pockets for the insides of the folders, finding the most best way to keep things flat while they dried. And you can see we've taped all the backs of the folders ready to go into the pockets into the folders. These are all the outsides that we made in my car, waiting to go on their first journey to be detailed, which was kind of a major point in the process because they were gone. We couldn't check anything. All the measurements were done. We wouldn't see them again for weeks. So while they were gone, we were working on the page blocks and the walls for the boxes and all the other parts that didn't have detailing on. So these were going off to get digitally printed first, then debossed, and then I don't think they went to Trebus for the straps. Maybe they did. Anyway, so they were gone. On the way back from dropping them off, someone ran into my car, and I wasn't sad because I was just thankful that it wasn't on the way there while all of this work was in the back. So this is another room. You can see my electric guillotine over there, and generally this table was where I'd have client consults and do all my admin. But for 9 weeks, it was a storage space and continuous cycle of parts, but always trying to leave some room so that we could access the guillotine. So there was always something different under the table and on the table and moving things around all the time. All the box walls all ready to go. This is the final boxes, or some of them. They were everywhere. So Blackwell and Ruth organised pre-made packaging with lots of bits that would go around them to protect them in their boxes and all individually stickered so you knew which one was in which place. And that's them in the van, ready to go. And there's a bit of a major component that I haven't shared yet. At some point early on, Jeff talked to me about adding in a unique detail. He had in his possession pages with Mandela's signature on them. Nelson Mandela had signed a stack of these pages at some point, and they weren't used for their original purpose. But the foundation had held on to them in case at some point they were going to be useful. Jeff asked, can we somehow add these in as a feature? And my stomach dropped as he showed me the famous signature in black marker on tracing paper. You may well know that tracing paper and any sort of moisture or adhesive are not friends. It's a diabolical material to work with as a bookbinder. You so much look at a closed jar of glue and that bad boy's going to cockle. I suggested a pocket or inlay inside the book cover, or potentially a separate frame of some kind where it could be added post-production. He said, it would be great on the first page in a window. Yes, Jeff, yes, it would. But the implications of altering a flush mount binding to make that happen whilst trying to avoid any type of moisture around the irreplaceable tracing paper with one of the world's most famous and well-respected signatures on it, terrifying. I didn't say no, but I wasn't the confident yes person this time. I said I needed to think it through and make some mock-ups. Also relaying all the possible outcomes that I could think of the dreaded cockling issue, because I didn't want to be involved in that situation of having to call the Nelson Mandela Foundation. You can see, though, that I managed to work through the issues, and editions 1 through 27 all feature the signature window on the first page. So another time curveball came with the arrival of the fine art prints for the folders. Unbeknownst to me, they all needed trimming down to final size and collating into sets. There were 528 individual prints that needed cutting on the board sheet by hand, 4 cuts per print, before spreading out and collating into their folders. But then, right on schedule, we were done, and the van drove away with all the boxed up sets ready to ship off to South Africa. And we tidied away all the bits and pieces left in the wake and kind of felt a bit strange and empty. It had been 9 weeks and 540 hours altogether. Dozens of suppliers and outworkers, literal blood, sweat and tears at time, and an unhealthy consumption of sugars and caffeines to keep us going. In conclusion, did this project drastically change our lives for the better? Yes, it did. Personally, it pushed our savings over the line for a deposit to buy our forest home, which we thought was always going to be impossible for us. This in turn led to other things that we'd always strayed about dreaming about. Having our daughter, and more recently adding a rescue pup to our family. We'll forever be grateful to Jeff Blackwell and Nelson Mandela for helping us into our first home. Mm-hmm. Professionally, it was amazing to work in a team again. There's something magical about making with friends, seeing your work pile up and accomplishing beautiful creations and getting into the zone and the rhythm of it. To push all the boundaries of techniques and materials, detailing weight and size limits, to trial processes and refine them for quality and speed. Yeah. To create handmade products in such high quality in multiples is a magic thing. Then there's the sheer magnitude of the subject matter. For a one-woman bindery in New Zealand to be entrusted to complete such an important presentation was a really high honour. At the Nelson Mandela Centenary celebrations, each one of the main speakers was gifted a set. The keynote speaker was Barack Obama, and it blows my mind all this time later that he possesses some of my work. Well, it makes me feel a bit teary. This was a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity and is still a reminder of what is capable through bookbinding. The industry is constantly changing and evolving, and as artisans working in it, we can change and evolve too. There are plenty of creatives out there that need our skills and knowledge of what is capable. It's been 7 years and a lot of lives, and I'm still in awe of what my team and I accomplished. I'm humbled to have been asked to create a limited edition that's not only beautifully compiled and designed and printed, but adds value to humanity in celebrating the life of this prolific figure, and it will do for generations to come. This is what being a bookbinder is about, preserving and sharing knowledge, history, and memories. To have had the opportunity to do this in such an extraordinary way has been the highest achievement in my career. And in the words of the extraordinary man himself, it always seems impossible until it's done.
Many questions. Yes. Would you do it again?
Yes. Yeah, I would. But, I'm a little bit older now. Not a lot older, but so I would try and outsource a bit more of the cutting and things, the repetitive stuff. I used to do quite a lot of bigger runs, but I've become really confident at saying no, which is another thing that we're talking about this morning. because I just can't, as you get older, your hands don't work the same way. After having a baby, your body doesn't work the same way if you're a woman. But yeah, I would do it again, and I still do runs of things, and I've done other epic things. But yeah, I definitely, you have to see. It's Nelson Mandela. Mm-hmm. Yes. So not of the whole thing, but we had a spare book block, and we had a couple of the books. We did a couple of spare cases, but didn't have the number debossed, because if we needed to, we could do that in house. Like we could deboss in, not UV print in house, but we could do that in the studio. So things like that we did have spares of. And then at the end you go through and take out the ones that are less perfect. They're still perfect, but you might go, oh, that corner's a bit ugly. I'll swap it for this one.
Even though nobody else.
No, nobody else would know. So yeah, and a lot of spare box trays and stuff, because things go wrong. And you don't want to do it like me. It's easier to cut 38 sets than just one set.
How does the Nelson Mandela Foundation find you?
They had worked with Jeff Blackwell for a long time. So Jeff Blackwell's a really well-known publisher in New Zealand, like worldwide, and he had made books for Nelson Mandela, Desmond Tutu, Princess Diana, Elton John, like that era of they're not celebrities and royal, what do you call them?
Luminaries.
The top layer of extraordinary people.
Okay.
So, and when I'd worked at Bound to Last and doing all the Frankfurt Book Fair dummies, like the books were all about those types of people. So Jeff knew me through Bound to Last, and he already knew the Nelson Mandela Foundation. Like he hung out with Nelson Mandela and Desmond Tutu. They were friends. Extraordinary human. And he's such a genuinely nice guy. He bought us cake when we finished and sat in my kitchen and drank tea out of my chipped tea mug and was just like, yeah, you guys are great. Yeah, he's a really nice man, and he appreciates the handmade and the craft. He knows what a good object is, the handmade object. So again, very blessed to have fallen into the career and be known by those types of people. Yeah.
So he was happy.
He was thrilled. Yeah. And he knew that, like Anna and Helly had taught us, if something goes wrong, you don't tell the client, you just fix it. And you don't take longer to fix it. You just stay up all night and get it done, because you still want to hit the deadline and they don't know anything's happened. You don't want to cause any hassle, Jeff's not a man that, that's why I was like, oh, not just yes to the signature page. Like, this might be something that I might not be able to pull off, Jeff, like I'm pretty magical, but that might be beyond me.
Lou,
Yeah.
apart from the copy that you have there, are there any other copies in New Zealand?
I don't think so, unless Jeff kept one for himself. I know the Nelson Mandela Foundation will have one, and whoever else was talking at the celebrations, they sold some editions. So I'm not sure where they are, but they'll be dispersed worldwide somewhere. Yeah.
And this copy belongs to you?
Yes.
Great.
Yeah.
Did you want?
Yeah, I asked permission to be able to keep one. So this one says 00/27 because that's the hardest proof.
Right.
So it's not technically part of the edition. That's how we get
Yeah.
around that.
Right.
But it does have the signature window,
Wow.
and that's Mandela's signature there. Yeah.
What was your favorite part of the creation process, the making sort of process?
I really enjoy making organizing the processes and making the templates and the jigs and working out how to do things as fast as possible. And Fleur can tell you that at Bound to Last, I was always rejigging how everyone was set up and cutting it in the apps and a little bit anal. To make things faster and flow better, because to seamlessly be making without any issues or holdups, it's so cool to just see your work going through the processes. And so the actual organizing of it, because making things It sounds really egotistical. I think I could do it in my sleep, like I've made so many things. So the enjoyment for me is the organization at this point.
I'm just really interested in your costing process.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, there are so many unknowns and curveballs that could potentially happen in there. And how do you ensure that you still come out on top?
That was part of doing a artist proof as well. I said to them that I would time it because a lot of my commissions I do as an hourly rate and materials. So I tell people what that is, and I said I'll need to make up one to give you a realistic figure because I'm not going to guess something this ginormous.
Yeah.
I gave them a maximum. And this is what I do with, if it's one book for one client, for Joe down the road, I give them a maximum. And then if I'm faster, I charge them less because I'm really honest. I don't go, oh, I can get all the money, So that's what I did for them. Does that answer your question?
I guess it's interesting, when you said like all of the, your raw materials are right, and it's like, well, you have to physically shift them from A to B, and then these ones, it's like, oh crap, there's an extra process here that you have to account for that you haven't thought about, all of those types of things.
That's where your markup in materials is really important though. So I do put a markup on the materials because of that. I'm storing it and moving it around and like changing blades on things or like having to move whole cowhides. So that's what the markup in materials is for. I'm lucky that I learnt that stuff when I was at Bound to Last because I was when I was team leader, part of the quoting process because I needed to be part of the timing process.
Right.
I did do the quotes, but I had to figure out timelines for things so that I could do the quoting. So I kind of still base all my quoting on her rules, which might be, I should probably up my markup now because it's been 20 years, but so that's all accounted for and then you obviously, you add over 540 hours, you might add 10 hours for mishaps or moving things around and have a little bit of a buffer zone.
Apart from your hand, like evidence that you made it, like it didn't, bound by
I do put a maker's mark on things. And in my terms and conditions, it says this will have a maker's mark, and then you can read exactly what that is on my website. It's a little 17 millimeter circle with my logo. This does not have a maker's mark on it though, because the design was all done by Blackwell and Ruth. I was the maker. Yeah. And although that I kind of sit in a grey area on that, I totally understand. This was something really special, and if someone owns a limited edition and they wanted to find out who made it, they'd pretty easily get back to me. They could just Google it. So I feel okay about that. But even some artist books and students, particularly photography students, they don't want your logo on that, and that I'm totally fine with that because that's not my work, and usually that's a perfect bound book. Although I'm doing it by hand and it's better made than a machine perfect bound book, I understand this. That's an easy thing. So it's a very grey area. At the moment I've run out of labels and I'm thinking maybe it's time to stop labeling things. I think I might have come to the point where I'm okay about that.
Stop. At least that's the thin sides. That's works.
Yeah. Well, we used to do it at Bound to Last. There was a sticker that we'd put in photo albums because we did a lot of work for wedding photographers and things. And they would say to us, oh, when I rip off your sticker, it leaves a mark. You don't rip it off. So it sits in that grey area.
Yeah, such a shame. I mean, a lot of the early paintings, we don't know who painted them.
Yeah.
Because it's all guesswork and
yeah,
it'd be a real shame if you stop doing.
But it's like, was it Ben that was saying, were you looking at menus? Did you say that at some point? Yeah. And me and my friends were talking about it at the dinner last night and talk about it often when we go out for dinner. you might look at a menu to see how it's made. We look at it to see who made it, because in New Zealand the industry is so small. You can look at someone's corners and know where it was made, with the size of the turn-ins, or so, oh yeah, that's from there, that's from there.
Any more questions? This is my last presentation of a bag which has
Thank
different things
you.
into it than the one you got before.
Thank you very much.
And I must say actually that I had felt quite teary
Oh,
when you were talking about that as well. It's,
thank you.
yeah, a pretty special thing.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for sharing that.
You're welcome. Thank you for having me to share it. I don't have the fine art prints, obviously, because a whole set of fine art prints is very expensive. But that was just something that I needed to fill up the folder so that everything sits nice and flush in the box. Yeah.
Oh,
Well, that's a huge signature.
Right.
Yes. Nice solution for the signature.
Yeah. Yeah, if I move this, you can open it. Yeah. It doesn't. It's flat.
yeah.
So once you get all the pages together, you have to trim it.
So you make the book block, and then you trim to get a nice square,
Right,
and then a square edge to line all the pages up to. And they have their crop marks and everything still on.
But still is like
Yeah.
to put the things on the
Yeah, to get them all, and to get them in the right order, like to make sure you've collated them properly. So once you've stuck that
Right.
down, you can't pull it up again. So that's it's a double-sided mount film. It's called Goody 804. It's by Nation.
You did swing the house.
Yeah, so every like
it's
couple
a
of
lot
blocks
of
we
work.
have to clean the blade. I didn't take the blade off.
Other
The
ideas.
spectrum came up with it. No, no, there was,
Project Rebel.
you know, gumbo eraser.
It was just
square one?
that first image of like all the colours and stuff. It was
Kind of
just
just
like,
rub it with that, but there wasn't much.
yeah.
So,
So I can, you know,
And-
see the switch.
but
It's
over
like, yeah, I
time
can
that
see
sort
that.
of shrinks
Yeah.
a bit. So it started out right at the edge, but it will slightly have come in, which kind of protects anything from sticking to it. And because it lives inside the box, it's not getting dusty and fluffy and things on the edges.
Did you get any extras of all the prints?
Yes, there was extras of those, yeah.
How did you call this type of project?
That's UV printing, so it's the same. Yeah, it's the same printing that they use on billboards, so that it's really light fast and weather resistant. If you're going to take the folder out in the rain,
If you would.
For
your pen.
Yes,
It's a special kind of ink.
Yes, correct. And they do it on a massive flatbed printer, and it's treated so that it doesn't crack in this.
It looks beautiful, very
Yeah, it's
clean, very neat.
It's a very nice solution, and I've done a lot of books with full color covers on that.
Oh, nice.
That. Yeah.
Can I ask how it's found? I haven't seen something like that.
We called that flush the point. Yeah, so that's a technique we used at Bound to Last to make wedding albums. So we did hundreds of those. with
Is
big
it like
covers.
attached to it? Like each page attached to something or?
So each page is a covered piece of paper, and they're glued one to the other.
Yeah.
With a border point.
Oh, yes. Okay, I am familiar.
How did you know about
Is there a piece of acetate there?
Yes. Plain.
It just makes a really nice kind of a
It's
detailing at the end.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
beautiful because it rolls on itself.
Yes.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
quite nice.
Yeah.
And when you're gluing sheets like that, is there a pressing stage as well?
No.
No.
We would glue each page to each other and rub it down really well and bone around, because it wouldn't matter if you made the bottom layer shiny because you'd never see it. So
Right.
you rub it, and then once they were all together, we'd run some glue over the spine and you just put it under weights,
Right.
because it's not going to press any more than what you've done with your hand. By the time you get to the end of that stack, it's pretty much dry at the bottom.
Okay,
So
looks
just
like
under weights.
There's 3 pieces in there.
There's 4.
4. The two middle ones are the same color. So you
Yeah.
can see 'em.
Yeah. So it goes print, adhesive, 4-page.
It makes it in the middle.
The adhesive kind of shrinks back a tiny bit over time. So it's not right at the edge, but you'd never know.
And that,
That was just part of it.
It's a pretty good adhesive.
Yeah, it's awesome. They sell it at conservation supplies.
The EVA.
Oh no, they do the 804
Okay.
by Nation, the film mount stuff.
Right.
It's good.
Beautiful.
Yeah, and the prints don't do them, like the prints are good,
Yeah,
but
they
they're
don't.
nothing.
Yeah.
And even the fine art prints, which were again like 10 steps from that, were
Yes.
beautiful,
Yeah.
but again were nothing compared to
Yes.
what the paintings were.
Yeah.
So I hope the exhibition does come at some point.
Oh,
Because it would be
yeah, like a
amazing.
shot. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, that's beautiful. Thank you so much. So,
Good, I'm glad. And it was really nice listening to Ben first this morning
Yes.
and just going, oh yeah,
yeah.
this is going to be a good follow-up, knowing that he's had a very similar path
Yes,
and that
exactly.
we're like timeline-wise
Yes.
kind of followed a very similar route.
Yes, yeah,
And
exactly.
The echoing of what I was going to say anyway was,
Yes.
yeah, good.
Yeah. It was also interesting with George's as well. I was talking about the imprint and with the different levels of like year 1, year 2,
Yeah.
etc. That was almost the same, similar kind of thing. This is the kernel of the onion also, and
Yeah.
then you're building on the outside of it. So
Yeah.
yeah, it all meshes together.
Yeah.